Okay, the first thing we need to do before we even get started is I need to explain the #1 overriding principle behind everything we do here at the gym, and that's aliveness. If you understand aliveness, then you're going to understand why we do what we do here at the gym. If you don't understand aliveness, no matter what you're training, you're not going to be able to fight. So let's make sure we go over that. That's the most important thing. Make sure you understand it. Here's a classic example of a dead pattern. Looks good, but it's not alive. This is alive. This is an uncooperative opponent at that range. And this is what a street fight, a trapping range, or that clinch range, like we like to call it, actually looks like. It's not pretty, but you need to get used to it. Here's another dead pattern. It's a lock flow. You can practice this way for 10 years every single day. You're still not going to be able to wrestle. This is not alive. This is alive. This is an uncooperative opponent. Training in this environment hour upon hour is the only way you're going to develop real timing and a real ground game. This is dead. No footwork, no timing. This is alive. There's footwork, motion, and there's some timing. In a real fight, your opponent's always going to be moving, so you want to train that way. Looking good static doesn't matter. Again, this is dead. No footwork, no timing. Rock 'em, sock 'em. Looks silly, but we're trying to make a point. This is alive. They've got footwork, they're moving around, and there's a sense of timing. This is still a drill, but it's a drill that's going to develop skill they'll actually be able to apply in a fight, and that's the difference between alive and dead training. Let's use another example. Okay, it's good, but he's swinging like this. Okay, nobody in a street fight's ever going to swing a stick at you like that. If he actually swings at me, it's going to be more like that. And this technique I just did, not going to work. If you get somebody mad at you in the street and you hand them a stick and they don't know anything about stick fighting, they're going to swing at you like that. If you give a baboon a stick, he's going to swing at you like that. Okay, so that's the kind of energy we want to work with. We don't want to work against somebody that's going to go like this. You can look as great as you want doing that. You can practice for 10 years. It's not going to help your stick fighting. Okay, let's review. Aliveness is made of 3 basic qualities. The first is energy. That means your training partner is giving you some kind of resistance, like an actual opponent would, swinging the stick away a real opponent would swing the stick, as an example. Or in this case, actually resisting an arm lock the way an actual opponent will. That's the kind of energy you want to train against in a street fight. The second quality is timing. It always has to have an intrinsic sense of timing, no matter what you're doing. Classic example is the difference in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu between a really good, say, blue belt and a black belt. The blue belt may know all the same techniques as the black belt, verbatim. They may know everything the black belt knows, but there's still a huge expanse in skill, a huge difference. And that difference is the timing. The black belt's capable of executing his moves with the right timing, when it's appropriate. You only get that kind of timing from rolling around against a resisting opponent. You're not going to get it from practicing drills. You're not going to get it from memorizing locks. You're not going to get it from knowing 40 variations of an arm lock when your opponent only knows 2. You're going to get that feel only from rolling around. It comes from experience and it comes from seasoning. That's the only difference, really, between a real good blue belt and a real good black belt. The third quality is motion. You always have to have motion in anything you're doing. Footwork always needs to be there. When you're hitting somebody, they're going to move. When they're going to hit you, they're going to be moving too. So if you're practicing in a static position, that's not going to help you. Okay, well hopefully you got a better idea of what aliveness is. That's pretty much an example of dead training versus training with aliveness. Dead patterns versus alive training against a realistic opponent who's feeding you the kind of energy that simulates what you might get in a street fight. If you don't understand what aliveness is, if you don't understand the difference between dead patterns and alive training, you're not going to be able to fight. You're not going to be able to take what it is you're using in your martial arts style, and I don't care what style it is, Penjak, Silat, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Kali, Jeet Kune Do, it doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to apply that knowledge. Now, if I gave this speech or these demonstrations to a group of, let's say, college wrestlers, or a boxing gym, or even a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, the vast majority of the students that are sitting there watching me give this speech are going to be looking at me like I'm an idiot. What are you talking about, aliveness? Of course aliveness, because they've been training that way since they were 3 or 4 years old, since they were competing. If they didn't, if their coach didn't have them training that way, they wouldn't be able to compete in any way, shape, or form. They wouldn't be able to perform the skills that it is they're trying to use. But unfortunately, if I go to 99.9% of the martial arts schools out there, they're going to look at me with a quizzical look on their face because they're not going to understand what I'm talking about. They're either going to be pissed off, okay, they're going to be confused, or they're going to realize, a light bulb's going to go off in their head, they're going to realize that they've been wasting all their time training dead patterns. And the sad fact of the matter is that's true of also about 90% of the certified quote-unquote Jeet Kune Do schools out there. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're always training with aliveness. No matter what, that's the overriding #1 principle. Let's use a different example. Let's say we're trying to teach somebody how to play chess for a second. First, you have to know how the basic pieces move. Okay, so the pawn moves this way, attacks this way, rook moves this way, knight moves this way, so forth and so on. Then you have a basic idea of what it is you're trying to accomplish. In this case, I'm trying to get a checkmate, so you understand what a checkmate is and how you get it. And you have a basic idea of what it is he's trying to accomplish.